So the patch is here. There's a bunch of rage out there. It seems a lot of it has to do with albums. I want to talk a little bit about the patch, a lot about the rage, give some of my initial immediate thoughts. And I will say, given where I'm at right now, I'd love, regardless of what you think my opinion is or what I say, try to hear me out on some of these points and see if you think it's fair, if it changes your point of mind, or come to the comments below and try to convince me to a counterpoint. I love having general debates. I hate just general blanket comments or people are like, no, you're the one who's bad for democracy and all stuff like that. Yeah, different topic, right? But I'm not into the no, it's you stuff. So let's talk a little bit. Hear me out. Let's see what we got. So I want to start one with this post that I put on Twitter. I heard a bunch of feedback out there. People were talking about the Marvel Snap albums. We're going to look, I haven't even opened the game yet since this. So we're going to look at it. You're going to see my immediate reaction. I think I've got some potential solutions to help because my immediate reaction here is you'll see. It's a fun new thing that gives us free things. Let's not be little babies about it yet. Yeah, I said it. So this is what I'm seeing a lot of talk about yet. And look, if you're enraged that I called you a baby, just chill. Okay. Like we're all hopefully adults here. Calling someone a baby is an adult. Like, no, it's not. But I'm wanting to engage in this conversation. I don't think that we should be rageful about this at this point. I said another thing. If you think that companies don't run metrics to see what items are least used / owned before starting systems like this, then I've got some marshland to sell you. So one of the things I've seen with people talking about albums right now is look at Super Tech God. He's got all the variants in the game and he's still 10 short. Yeah, good. Like, I don't want them to release a system and on day 0, day 1, whatever you want to call it, that anybody can complete it. I have played a game, and look, this is one of those, like, listen to me, I've been there before. I played a game, a Marvel mobile game, where they did that and allowed people to get the best things right away, and it died in less than 2 years. Because the extension of things, and this was for power and progression, okay? It wasn't cosmetics like what's in this game. It allowed people to just get light years ahead of everybody else in the game. It was terrible. And so it was really tough. I don't want to go down that route. So the part that I really want to draw attention to here with this at this moment is let's rage if they lock meta cards behind these albums. Until then, just have fun collecting and getting new stuff, or don't, whatever works for you. Now, I've got some interesting comments on here, and I think there are some good people who, they've got some good points. I think it's, you know, some people are like, I don't expect handouts. They do well. They don't like that, like someone like Dexter who can't even get the emotes and has spent thousands. This isn't okay. Stop defending this as if we're being entitled. Now, I'm technically not calling anybody entitled. I understand where somebody like me saying something like this to the gaming community is typically adjacent to somebody saying that they're entitled, but I'm not out here trying to say you are entitled. I'm just saying let's not whine about it, okay? Like, I'm not saying anybody's entitled. While I understand why this person would say that I would, or assume that I'd be saying that, I'm not. And I said, I'll defend what I want, and no one called you entitled. Who cares if you or Dexter, no offense to Dexter, I don't know him, he doesn't know me, has the latest emote on day 1. And again, I want to reinforce that. Who cares? Like, why do you think none of the money you spent to this point was to get at these albums? All of the money spent up to this point was for whatever you spent it on. That's it. You bought those variants because you wanted those variants, not because you knew an album was going to come later and it was going to lead to an emoji. I don't buy a house and then someone goes, hey, with this house, you know, you could spend and get something else with it. It's like, no, I bought my house because I bought my house, right? That's it. Or my car, whatever you want to pick, or my shirt. So I'm just not buying that argument. I'm not down for it. I also say now you're the good point here is there are some variants people just don't want, and that's lame. And that's one of the points I really want to key on here before we get out of here. It was some people were, this person was more agreeing with the entitled type comment or thinking that people would be entitled that we're doomed as a society because people shouldn't expect these things in video games. And I generally agree. This person, I think, has a great outlook. It's a punch card. Makes it hurt less if you think of it that way. And that's the way I originally looked at it. It's like, look, there's no time limit on this. Get the stuff when you get it or don't get it. But what are you missing out on if you don't have these things? Like, what are we talking about? Like, are you more powerful? Are you progressing faster because of the album collections? Now, again, I've got to open it and confirm, but my understanding is that outside of maybe like a spotlight key, I'll give you that. Like, that'd be a comment, right? Like, you're getting a spotlight key for this. Okay, sure, I guess, maybe. And that it's even loose because it's like spotlight key going to spotlight variants. It's like, is it a variant? Is it a card? Are you not getting a card because you don't have one spotlight key? I don't know. Seems a little stretch. This person, and I disagree with this part completely. It's literal Kampu gacha. You know, the gacha that actually, I shouldn't say I totally disagree with this. The gacha that Japan banned. I actually don't know what that is. The Kampu gacha, I don't know. And I still stand by this point where it's like, what's the gacha in cosmetics? You know, and I don't know that game. And I mean, look, if you're getting gacha'd into buying cosmetics, like stop. Like, this is not, these are shinies, these are pretty things. You don't need these things. Anything in this game. I don't care if it's the most super powerful card ever. Okay? Like, you don't need it. Like, there are plenty of ways to play this game if you want without spending a bunch of money. You can literally spend $10 a month and compete. So don't get sucked into it. Like, this is like therapist Wolverthor here, like interventionist Wolverthor here, saying you do not need to come and do these things. Do not do it. And that's part of why I think I have the position I have, is because I don't feel like I need to, right? I just don't. Now, again, there's probably a lot more replies. We're not going to go through all these because I do want to get into the Discord and look at some of the changes. And I'm going to come back to this and I'm going to find some solutions that I think could actually work, because I do think there are some good points in these where they're talking about where, you know, certain variants, spending money on it, it's a lot to get certain things. But again, if it's a lot to spend, if I have to spend 1,200 gold, 50 bucks, 60 bucks to get an emoji, I have to individually make that decision for myself. Do I think it's worth it? If the answer is yes, and I have the money, then I will buy it. If the answer is no, and I have the money, and I won't buy it. It really doesn't matter if I have the money or not. But you, me, whoever's making that decision individually can decide for themselves, is this worth it or not? That's it. Full stop. All right, so real quick on the patch highlights. Deck builder, cool. I know that certain things aren't working perfect with it. Like, it keeps giving the discard decks with America Chavez in it, even though she changed. It's probably got to get the new, I guess, basically historical data in it. Albums, we talked about that briefly. We'll talk about it more. New emotes, cool. That's a great story. Deck builder, albums, mystery variants. Apparently, they're a little bit more prominent. Not a guaranteed, but a little bit more prominent. So whatever the percent chance. Remember, 50% chance does not mean you're going to get it if you do it twice. It just means each time you have a 50% chance. I once watched somebody lose over $5,000 playing roulette, just betting on black over and over and over. And guess what? It went like 16 times in a row red. It's possible. Don't do it. Emotes, again, we talked about that a little bit. Spotlight avatar frame. I've seen these. I like these. I do sort of wish that the spotlight avatars, if you got a infinite border on it, like, I sort of wish it could be reassigned, but at the same time, they're all individual, so I'm not really that upset about it. And I think if someone's upset about that, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, you still have the infinite border. Like, you could still change the other one. It's not like you lose it. So I think it's fine. Auto pick favorites, fine. Audio, I like the new audio, cool stuff. Visual effects, we always like that. Balance updates. I'm going to fly through these, because I really want to focus in on the album stuff, and I want to get in game and look at it and give you guys a solution. America Chavez, old. New is a 2/3 on reveal. Top card gets +2 power. I get that they needed to change this. I know a lot of people are upset about it. I think it did need to change. I think the old one was boring. It sounds like a lot of this stuff is mainly hurting the earlier players, but I also like that this could potentially help Shaw, and I think it's a sort of a mini buff for Howard too. I think that this might incentivize some people to maybe want to get Howard, because it's like, well, I want to make sure that I give my +2 to a card that I care about. Maybe. I also think that the consistency of certain decks, like a Loki deck, and that's a card that I know didn't get touched, which I'll chime in right now. There's no reason that card should not be immediately changed, or has at least been changed at some patch at some point after its full month of release, that it is limited to a capped at a 1. Like, it shouldn't go 0. When you get my 1-cost cards, they shouldn't be free. Change it. There's no reason it's not there. So I like it. I think it's fine. So it gives some nerf to that. It changes. Maybe it helps Howard a little bit. and it changes something that they talk about here, I think, in general for the game. Now, Eliath, this is kind of nuts. Destroy all unrevealed enemy cards here. I like this. I like this. I don't think it kills the card. I think it makes it a little bit more niche and maybe not as toxic. I think it's good. That way you have to establish priority before doing it. So yes, it still guarantees you a lane, but very similar to some of the other lockdown cards like Professor X. It feels very much like a Professor X type card, except for you basically have, if you have priority, you're guaranteed versus Professor X. If someone can still play there and you can lose, I think it's a good change. I like that they reduced the power by 1. I think this is a sweet spot for it. I expect it to stay here pretty much forever. Luke Cage goes up 2-3. I don't like this change, mainly because I named my son after Luke Cage and they're changing the card in game and now he's weaker. I don't like it. Your cards here can't have their power reduced. I think this is going to drastically shake up the meta. I think you're going to see a lot more negative affliction. I think the high evo stuff's going to come back immediately. I think you're going to see it out there. I think stuff like Scorpion's going to come out a little bit more. Spider-Woman, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think this is like such a minor change that could easily shake up the meta. I think is very interesting, and it gives the ability for cards like Valkyrie to expand and be better as well. I think that's a good thing. Shadow King, just a small change there. I think that's fine, no big deal. Elsa, this one hurts. I don't love it. It goes from a 2-2 to 2-3. After you apply a card that fills this location, give it +2 power. So it's not fill a location. It's just the location that Elsa plays at. Now, some of the things they did change with this was that you can get some additional points to cards like Brood. That's good. I think that's awesome. I like it. But I do not love that they nerfed this so hard. But the truth is Elsa was really strong and it probably should have never been really released at that. But, you know, it is what it is at this point. I also don't love the habits of changing cards after they're released for a little bit. But there are some other ones that, you know, they do buff, we'll get to in a second with Ebony Blade and Ravana Renslayer. But the truth is you're not going to buy a season pass for just the card. The season pass value is way beyond anything in the card, so I'm not really upset about it. Kitty Pryde goes back to 1-1. I think given the change for Elsa, I think that makes sense. Ebony Blade, I like this change. I still don't know if I think I like this deck. There are some people talking about, my friend of the channel, Glazer, is talking about how he thinks it could be really good, and I've seen some other people saying, why do I always hate on it? I just look at the metrics and I don't like playing it. I think it's too clunky. Anyway, the change it's now ongoing and can't be destroyed, and its power can't be reduced. So if you ever want to destroy it or power reduce, you've got to take away the ongoing first, which is a lot of work. Okay, we'll see. I still think that the 4 cost is tough. I think having the Black Knight played early, and then a discard card that actually, and then having that discard card ready and hitting a card that you wanted to, and then being able to play the Ebony Blade. Lots of steps. Ravana Renslayer 2-1 to 2-3. Love this. Expect Ravana all over the place. I think this could help Mobius come out a little bit too. I think it's great. I'm looking to put her in as many decks as I can. Mindstone. This is an interesting change. On reveal, draw 2 1-cost cards instead of 2 stones. I don't hate it. I will say there's not a ton of 1-cost cards that you might want to play, but Deadpool, Nico, for sure, maybe even Forge, and destroying them, okay. I mean, I will say that it's making Thanos feel like he's just non-existent in the game, that the stones already feel more important than Thanos. This sort of makes Thanos even more irrelevant in my mind, because it's hard to get the stones to be able to build up Thanos. I don't know. I mean, I think this is sort of a random weird move. I'll see it. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. I love the move update. Basically, the long and short of this is cards are now going to say whether they move cards that include unrevealed. Juggernaut stays that way. So Juggernaut still moves cards that are unrevealed. But like a Spider-Man and a Stegron, they will not. Stegron also got buffed to 4/6. I still don't think he's great. I don't know. I just don't think he's a good card. I think the RNG of swapping is just... I don't like it. But, you know, 4/6 is solid. I just think that for 4 cost, moving a random card isn't that great. We talked about Juggernaut. Arrow, this is an interesting change. Goes from 5/8 to 5/9. Move the last enemy card to anywhere to this location. Some people are upset about that. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see. The Phoenix Force bug, where if you copy you can move, or the copies can't move, they can now move. I think it's great. And then we got some text updates here, basically just making explanation shorter. Great. None of these cards afflicted their functionality change. The following cards have changed text. So they all work the same. but the text is a little bit different. Cool story. That's fine. I'm not going to go through those. So those are the general patch notes. So let's go in game and let's talk about this album and see what it looks like specifically. Make sure I feel how I am, and I'll give you my final sort of how I think it needs to be. Okay, so I'm in game. I'm not getting any news notifications or anything of this, which I think is a miss on their part, but we'll find this. Okay, so you go to collection and that's where the albums pop up. So that's interesting. And then the way this works too is it looks like it's in reverse order, which is nice. So go into albums. All right, so we've got 3 different albums that we can go into. You can see I do not have very many of these these specific items. Looks like avatar, variant card, spot, key, emoji, avatar, 2,000 tokens. I guess that could be argued. Well, that helps me get more, you know, cards potentially. Okay, I'll give you that. Again, variant cosmetics. And then hip is similar. Okay, so the second one is always, or no, not always, but this is a card. But there looks like there's one that I would give to somebody saying, well, this is a pay to win mechanic a little bit. Now, I don't think it's that much to pay to win, especially given the investment and what you're going to get down here. So I'm sort of like, okay, no big deal. So now let's look at these. Now, I don't have any of these, right? So Baron Mordo, Hela, Juggernaut, Killmonger, Kraven, Loki, Viper, Typhoid Mary, Thanos, Scorpion, Red Skull, Omega Red. So there are 2 out of how many are these? 6, 12, 2 out of 12 that just no. Like, I'm not playing Baron Mordo and I'm not playing Omega Red. And this is going to tie into my point here in a second. Jim Lee, let's look at this. So I do have 1 out of that size. Bishop's good, Colossus, Cyclops good, Domino, Magic good, Magneto good, White Queen good, Storm good, Sabretooth solid, Rogue good, Professor. So all of these are good cards, with the exception of, I mean, Colossus is the weakest one, which, or I'm sorry, maybe Domino. Domino's probably the weakest one, but no big deal. The rest of these are pretty solid. Now let's look at the hip ones. Ant-Man good, Blue Marvel good, Captain America and Dazzler, most people don't like. Goose good, Iron Man good, Sarah good, Onslaught good, Omega Red no, Luke Cage good, Claw solid. Okay. All right. So now the good thing is most of these cards aren't bad. Now Omega Red, Dazzler seem to be the ones that are the weakest, and I'll move myself for this. I know I was saying those, so now you can at least see the ones that I was talking about in the corners there, with Viper, Typhoid Mary, Loki, etc., in case I was covering it. But you still get the point. You still understand what's here. So my suggestion for this is, again, looking at this, I'm still not rageful. I'm just not. Now, going to the shop, it would be nice, I'd say, to be able, and you can see how often I buy these. Like, I'd like to know if one pops up that's like, it gives me an indication if it's an album. I'd want to know that, because I just don't know. I mean, you expect me to memorize those? Like this, the featured variant thing, the Venomized, yeah, I know someone who opened, I think, 3 or 4 of them and didn't get what they wanted. So I'm not going to risk that. But I would like to know which of these are actually, you know, for an album. Now, maybe it will show it and I just don't have any. Okay, fine. But I'm still not Rachel. So this is my suggestion. This is what y'all came here for, right? My suggestion would be, this one I'm fine with. Stuff like Venomized villains, that's very niche, very custom. I'm good with that. Jim Lee X-Men, that's still pretty, like, it's a narrow, small window, right? Like, I couldn't really see this being much more broad than this. But when you've got a situation like a Dan Hip, what I'd like to say is, let's call, I don't know, let's allow somebody to get at least 6, 7, somewhere between 6 and, I don't know, 8 to 10, 6 to 10-ish of these that are just whatever Dan Hip variants they've got. Whatever Dan Hip variants they've got, they can go ahead and say, I'm applying, or, you know, I've got 10 Dan Hips here, or maybe it's 6, whatever. Whatever the number is, it is. But then there's 2 to 3 to 4, if I can do math, that are, you have to have these, or you've got to have 4 of this specific bunch. Like, it doesn't have to be this specific one, but here's a bunch of, you know, here's a group of 6. You can have any 4 of these 6, and the rest is just whatever Dan Hip ones you got. Whatever ones you got, doesn't matter. Just, you got them, cool story, you've got them. it counts. I think that would go a long way, at least in something like a Dan Hip, because for me, yeah, I don't play Omega Red. I don't want to spend gold on getting an Omega Red variant. I just don't, you know, like now, and that's what I need to do to get the emoji, you know, like now it's just emoji, you know, I only need what, 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah. So I only need 6 to get the pay to win there. I need 6 to get the pay to win there. And I need 9 to get the pay to win here, but it's the Venomized villains. These are the ones that I think should be sort of like ISO focused on specific ones anyway. And you know what? If I don't want to make a like, and I don't care about the emoji, all right, I'm gonna go Loki, Viper, Thanos, Scorpion, Juggernaut, Killmonger, Red Skull, Kraven. I don't know how many I've counted, but you get the idea. Like I'll skip Omega Red. I can skip 3. Skipping Omega Red, I'm skipping Baron Mordo, and 1 more. What? It doesn't matter. It just depends what shows up. The rest of them I like. They're all good. Maybe I don't play Hella decks. I'm skipping Hella, though it's a dope variant. So that's where I kind of think that should land. And again, to finish this off, I know this is a crazy long video, but I wanted to do it that way just because I thought it was important to sort of talk about, is that these are generally cosmetics. I will give you the argument. There's a spotlight key, there's 2,000 credits, and there's credits and tokens. I just don't, man, there is so much stuff to be mad about just in life in general. And sorry to be soapboxy about a lot of that, but it's just like, who cares? Like, just who cares? Get what you can, have fun, and go from there. If you're upset about some of the nerfs in game, I promise you, we're going to be over it in 2 or 3 weeks. There's going to be a new meta. There's going to be new cards. There's going to be things that change. It's going to go water under the bridge. We're going to move on. We're going to find a way to adapt. It will be fine. I promise you. Marvel Snap and the world will keep rotating no matter what. But I think that it's important to sort of focus in and get something like this to be a little bit more free to play, user friendly. And look, these two, they're niche. Fine, cool. Make the third one more open. Make it more open. It doesn't have to be every single one that's an itemized one, but like I said, maybe, you know, anywhere between 3 to 6. And I think that'd be pretty cool. One thing I do want to mention actually before we get out of here, they brought these back to the store, these like sort of milestone things where if you spend basically $200 for the month and you get a, what is that? It looks like a Venomized or maybe a Nullified, maybe Nullified. It looks like Null. Miles Morales, if you want to get that. It looks like a pretty cool Black Cat variant as well. Not a lot of stuff here. I did this for the Enchantress one. I do play for her and I was already spending. Not sure that's anything that I'd really necessarily want to do, but if you want to spend money and you want to build towards this, go for it. I think it's cool, but yeah, so I just wanted to end with that. Let me know what your comments are below. I know a lot of people are upset. I'm sure I'm going to get called a shill all over the place and people are going to think I'm calling them entitled. I promise you it's not my intent, but I'm going to say how I feel. I'm going to give those initial impressions. I'm also extremely capable of changing my mind. I am stubborn to a fault, but not so stubborn I won't change my mind. But I am to the point where you got to convince me. So convince me if you think something's different and give me some good stuff. That's all I got. Appreciate you making it far. Hammer down the like button. Until next time, hope you have a wonderful day.